Have you ever felt like someone is watching you, even when you're completely alone? I'm not talking about a casual glance, but a piercing stare that cuts through your back, as if an invisible presence is observing you from a dark corner. I never believed in such things until I experienced it firsthand. My name is Felipe Mendoza. I'm from Veracruz, and for several years, I worked as a gas station attendant at a station located just outside the city, near the old highway. It was one of those gas stations where you rarely see anyone at night. Yet for some reason, it's always open, as if someone or something needs it to never close. I took the graveyard shift because it paid a bit more. There wasn't much to do, just wait for a stray truck or car to pass by, fill it up, and return to the silence. At first, it was peaceful. I even grew to enjoy the calm. But everything changed one November night when the cold started to bite, and the silence became too heavy. Asterisk, that night, I arrived at 11:30 p.m. as usual. I greeted the coworker leaving the previous shift and settled into the small security booth next to the gas pumps. I turned on the electric heater and started reviewing the logbook. Everything was normal. Around 1 a.m., I began to feel something strange. It wasn't a loud noise or a scream. It was more like a presence, as if someone was standing behind the booth's wall, motionless, just waiting. I thought it was my imagination. I grabbed my flashlight and went outside to check. But there was nothing, just the empty road and the dark fields stretching out on both sides. I returned to the booth, a bit uneasy, and tried to distract myself with the radio. But the signal was bad, and all I could hear was static mixed with faint, unintelligible voices. I turned off the radio and sat in silence. That's when I heard the first bang. It came from the back, where we kept the empty drums, a single, sharp thud, as if someone had deliberately moved one. I went out again, this time more alert. I walked with my flashlight in hand, scanning every corner. There was no wind, no rain, no reason for anything to have fallen. I approached the drums and noticed one was slightly out of place, as if someone had nudged it. I repositioned it and told myself it might have been misplaced earlier. I returned to the booth and locked the door. About 20 minutes passed in silence. I was starting to relax when I saw car lights approaching. I breathed a sigh of relief. A customer. The car, an old black sedan, stopped at pump number 3. I put on my vest, grabbed the nozzle, and went out to assist. "Good evening," I said as I approached. "How much do you want?" The driver's window was completely fogged up and didn't roll down. I tapped gently on the glass. Nothing. That's when I realized the car was completely off. No headlights, no engine noise. It had just appeared there, as if someone had parked it and vanished. My heart pounded as I stepped back. The pump wasn't registering any activity. No fuel flow, no activation, nothing. I approached cautiously again, and that's when I saw something I still can't explain. The driver's seat was empty. No one was inside. So who had driven it there? A chill ran through me. I backed toward the booth, keeping my eyes on the car. Just as I was about to enter, I heard another bang, louder this time, coming from the tool storage shed. I froze, debating whether to check the shed or stay inside. It was my job to ensure everything was in order, but something felt deeply wrong. The night had grown heavier, as if the air itself was filled with something invisible that was watching me. I grabbed the flashlight again, my hands trembling slightly. I walked toward the shed, about 20 steps from the booth. The bang wasn't like a tool falling, it sounded like someone had kicked the door from the inside. When I arrived, I noticed the shed door was slightly ajar. I was certain I locked it before starting my shift. I pushed the door open carefully, and it swung silently. Inside, everything seemed in order, but there was a strange smell, not garbage, it's oil or wet earth, but something dry, like old paper mixed with clothes stored for years. I scanned the shelves, oil cans, and boxes with my flashlight. Everything was in place, but at the back, near the wall, it was something that hadn't been there before. A hunched figure, like a person sitting with their head bowed. It was completely still. My breath caught. I shone the light harder. It didn't move. I thought maybe it was a bag or a pile of clothes, but the longer I looked, the more it resembled someone with their face obscured by hair. I swallowed hard. "Hello?" I said softly. "Do you need help?" The figure didn't respond or move. I took a step back, unwilling to get closer. I couldn't move further. Then, the shed's light bulb, which had always been burnt out, flickered on by itself. The yellow light illuminated everything for a moment, and the figure was gone. I turned and ran, locking myself in the booth. I sat, trembling, in front of the glass, staring at the pumps. The black car was still there, unmoving. Just when I thought the worst was over, its headlights turned on, though no one was inside. The beams blinded me for a few seconds. I shielded my eyes with my arm. When I looked again, the car was gone, moving, not reversing, just gone. I approached the window cautiously, checking for tire marks or any trace, but there was nothing. I considered calling my boss, but knew he wouldn't believe me. All I could do was write it in the guard log, trying to make it sound normal. Bangs in storage, possible rat, unidentified black car, left without fueling. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the shift. I spent it watching the clock, praying for 6 a.m. when dawn finally broke and the next shift arrived. I couldn't explain why I looked so pale, but that wasn't the worst part. The next day, I returned to work as usual. I wasn't eager, but I needed the money. On the way, I considered quitting, making up an excuse to never return. But something inside me insisted I needed to understand what had happened. It wasn't a coincidence. When I arrived, everything seemed normal. I greeted the coworker, handing over the shift, and asked if he'd noticed anything odd during the day. He said no, everything was fine. That reassured me a bit. Maybe, I thought, it was a waking dream caused by exhaustion. That night, I resolved to stay calm. I made coffee, checked the entire place, and even called a friend for the first hour to avoid feeling alone. But as the night wore on, the silence grew heavy again. Around 3 a.m., I heard the wind blowing stronger than usual. The leaves of the big tree near the shed rustled violently, as if something invisible was shaking it. I opened the booth door slightly to look. No one was there. The road lights were on. The pump flickered as always, but the air felt strange, thicker, colder. I closed the door and sat down. Then I heard a soft knock on the booth's glass, like knuckles tapping weakly. I froze, looking at the window. No one was there. It happened again, this time on the opposite window. I grabbed a flashlight and shone it outside, but saw nothing. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and walked around the booth. There was no one, no cars on the road, just the cold creeping under my shirt, chilling my skin. I returned inside, locked the door. I thought that was enough for the night, but when I glanced at the security camera screen, my hands began to sweat. One camera pointed directly at the shed, and in the blurry, dark image, I saw a silhouette standing right in front of the door. It didn't move, just stood there. It wasn't clear enough to see a face or clothes. It was like a shadow, shaped like a person. But the worst part was when I leaned closer to the screen. The shadow slowly turned, and though the image was grainy, I swear it was looking directly at me, as if it knew I was watching. I jerked back from the screen. I didn't leave the booth for the rest of the shift. I stayed in a corner with the light on, checking the clock every 5 minutes. When dawn came, the figure was gone, as if nothing had happened. But that night left a mark. Since then, every time I walk near the shed or see a black car pass by, I get a chill, as if something is still watching me from the shadows. And I was just starting to realize that what was happening wasn't just in my head. Days passed without anything strange, but the fear was now inside me. Every night at the gas station, I checked everything more carefully. I didn't sleep, didn't play music, and kept my eyes glued to the cameras. Some nights were calm, yes, but there was always something off, a sound with no source. A shadow moving when it shouldn't, a cold breeze with no wind. One night, near the end of my shift, Don Ernesto, the maintenance chief, came by for some tools he'd forgotten. When I saw him enter the shed, I couldn't help but feel a chill. "Doesn't it creep you out going in there alone?" I asked casually. He stopped, looked at me seriously, and said something that froze me. "Have you seen the woman in the dark dress?" I went speechless. I hadn't told anyone what I'd seen, not even my friends. I barely managed to say, "What woman?" Don Ernesto sighed, as if it pained him to talk about it. "Years ago, when the gas station was new, there was an accident. A woman broke down on the highway and stopped here for help. They say she went into the shed looking for someone, but no one ever saw her leave. She was never found, and since then, some have seen her always at night, always alone." I didn't know what to say. My hands trembled. Not because he confirmed it, but because I finally understood that what I'd experienced wasn't just my imagination. Don Ernesto grabbed his tools and, before leaving, put a hand on my shoulder. "If you see her again, don't open the door. No matter what she says, no matter how she looks, don't open it." Since that, my name is Daniel, and I work as a nurse on the night shift at San Miguel Hospital. It's an old hospital with creaking walls and corridors that seem to stretch into the darkness. It's not the most welcoming place, but it's my job. And like everyone else, I've gotten used to the night routine. But one autumn night, something happened that made me question everything I thought I knew about that hospital. It was a night like any other. The hum of machines, the soft, steady beeps of monitors were my only company. Most patients were fast asleep, and those awake had only minor complaints. I was assigned to the emergency ward, one of the most isolated areas, making it even quieter. There was something about the stillness of those dark corridors that gave me an unsettling sense of solitude while walking to the emergency ward to check patient reports. Something strange happened. A door that was always locked swung open in front of me. No wind, no movement, just a soft creak, as if inviting someone inside. I looked around. No one was nearby. I stopped in front of the open door. The darkness in the hallway beyond seemed denser than usual. A heavy silence enveloped the scene, and for a moment, it felt like the entire hospital had stopped breathing. Curiosity got the better of me sometimes. The routine becomes overwhelming, and any change, however small, is welcome. I stepped inside, unprepared for the chill that ran down my spine. I moved forward, unsure what I expected to find. The hallway was dark, with lights flickering intermittently, as if about to go out. My breathing slowed, deepened, as my footsteps echoed in the stillness at the end of the hallway. I found an old, weathered door unlike the typical doors in a modern hospital. It seemed out of place, from another time. A small, opaque glass window sat at the top, but what caught my attention was the writing on the door. Strange, unreadable symbols. Curious, I approached to examine them. As I touched the wood, something inside me screamed to leave, but it was too late. My hand turned the knob, and the door opened. What I saw chilled my blood. The room beyond wasn't a hospital room at all. It was small, with mold-covered walls and stale air, as if no one had breathed there in years. In the center stood an old, rusty wheelchair, but the worst was on the floor. A tattered, stained rug with marks I couldn't identify. A low, almost imperceptible murmur came from the walls, like the place was whispering something I couldn't understand. I took another step, the noise growing louder until the ceiling light flickered out, plunging the room into total darkness. My heart pounded, my mind urging me to leave, but something kept me there. I know it was madness, but I was captivated. At the back, near the wheelchair, I saw a figure, barely perceptible shadow. Before I could move, a soft, stifled laugh filled the air, sinister, as if mocking what was about to happen. Fear surged, and I stepped back. But before I could retreat, a clear whisper spoke directly into my ear. "You're going to be one of them." Then everything went black. My next memory is standing in that dark hallway, trembling. I don't know how much time had passed or how I got there. Everything seemed normal again, as if the hallway no longer held the same tension. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something strange had happened. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself, convincing myself it was a dream born of loneliness and exhaustion. "Just your mind playing tricks," I muttered, as if saying it aloud could erase the dread choking me. I turned and walked back, but the murmur persisted, a faint echo refusing to fade. I wasn't sure if it was in my head or if something truly lingered in the hospital, back in the main ward. Everything seemed calm. The patient slept as if nothing had disturbed the night. I tried to resume my routine check-in reports, machines, ensuring everything was under control, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen, that figure in the room. I wondered if anyone else had noticed anything strange. I asked some coworkers, only to discover something even more unsettling. No one knew about that room. They didn't recognize the door I described. It wasn't possible. The hospital had been renovated multiple times, and no records showed that room's existence. Was I imagining it all? The realism was too vivid to dismiss as a hallucination at first. I tried to convince myself it was a fluke, a trick of my tired mind. But as the night wore on, something told me what I'd experienced was real, and ignoring it might be the most dangerous thing I could do. Throughout the night, the lights flickered again. The break room grew icy, and despite my jacket, the air felt strange, unsettling. My thoughts kept drifting back to that dark, forgotten hallway. Something was calling me, something I couldn't see but knew was there. I couldn't resist. Curiosity overcame me again, and I returned to the room. The door was closed as I'd left it. I wasn't sure what I expected to find: the figure, the whispers. Maybe I just wanted answers, even if I wouldn't like them. I grabbed the knob. It was colder than normal. The silence was so deep, it hurt. This time, I couldn't ignore the growing fear. But it wasn't just fear, it was a sense of inevitability, as if everything was leading to this moment. I opened the door, and a heavy air greeted me. The darkness felt different, denser, as if something else was there, something not of this world. Suddenly, I heard soft footsteps in the distance, slow but clear. My heart raced, my breathing uneven. I thought it might be a coworker, but as the steps grew closer, I saw no one. A guttural scream broke the air, not human, but deep, as if from a torn throat, shaking me to my core. I froze. The room was empty again, but I wasn't alone. In the corner, where there had only been darkness, a vague figure moved slowly. The cold and desolation intensified. "Who's there?" My voice trembled, but there was no answer. The figure kept approaching. I couldn't breathe or move. My legs failed, but something inside told me to stay, that I couldn't run. With each step the shadow took, an invisible weight dragged me toward it. Then I heard the whisper again, so close it felt inside my ear. "We've been waiting for you." The words burned in my mind, repeating like a distorted melody. I couldn't move or speak, only stand there, fear enveloping me, waiting for what or who and why it had chosen me. The figure, that otherworldly shadow, was now just steps away. Though I couldn't see it clearly, its presence was palpable, chilling my blood. The air thickened, suffocating, like a cold, damp blanket. My thoughts scrambled as logic fought to surface. I was exhausted. Maybe this was a hallucination. Stress, fatigue, but I couldn't ignore what I felt. Something in that darkness was real. So real, it warped the hospital's very essence. I tried to step back, but my body wouldn't respond. Every muscle felt heavy, sticky, as if trapped in a nightmare's fog. Yet I couldn't stop staring at the figure. Then it spoke again, its voice low and trembling, as if from a throat ravaged by time. "You're not the first, nor will you be the last." My eyes widened in terror. What did it mean? Who was it referring to? Before I could answer myself, the figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. The light flickered, and for a moment, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. But when the light stabilized, I saw something even more disturbing. A small, dark puddle on the floor beside me, unidentifiable. It wasn't water, had no familiar smell, but seemed to move, as if breathing. It was so black, so deep, I couldn't look at it long without shuddering. Slowly, the room returned to normal order, so I thought. But something had changed inside me, a persistent feeling that I was being watched, that I wasn't alone. I wanted to run, to escape as fast as possible, but my legs failed, and fear paralyzed me further. Suddenly, the door slammed shut violently. The sound echoed through the hallway, and I felt a pressure in the air, as if an invisible force was pinning me against the walls. I couldn't breathe, but couldn't look away from the door, expecting something or someone to emerge from the darkness. My thoughts tangled, fear turning to desperation. I needed to scream, to run, but I was trapped in that room, in that nightmare with no end. Then the door creaked open slowly, making my skin crawl. Something was on the other side, but I couldn't see it. All I could do was listen to the footsteps approaching. I wasn't alone. My heart pounded frantically. Was it a patient, a coworker, or something worse? The figure reappeared, closer, more tangible. I could see its azure thought. I did two empty, lifeless spheres filled with infinite darkness. Though its face was indistinct, its gaze pierced my soul. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to escape, but something held me back, telling me that if I ran, I'd never be the same. I was trapped in a cycle again. I wasn't sure I could escape. The footsteps stopped in front of me. The same whisper echoed again. "We've been waiting for you, but now you're one of us." Before I could react, the figure dissolved into the air, leaving an emptiness that took my breath away. The light flickered once more, and when I looked around, everything seemed in place. But I knew something inside me had changed, something I could no longer ignore. My mind spun. Was it all an illusion? Had exhaustion and stress played a cruel trick? I didn't know what to think, but the fear was too real. Something was happening in this hospital, something beyond reason. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination, but the whispers, the feeling of being watched, were too vivid to be mere delirium. I walked down the hallway to clear my mind, to confirm it was all in my head. The silence was deafening. Each step echoed, and the unease grew with every second. The light. They say the night hides things that daylight refuses to see. My name is Felipe Mendoza, a gas station attendant on the old Veracruz highway. The station stood alone, swallowed by fog and silence. Most nights were uneventful till one November shift changed everything. It was past 1 a.m. when I heard a loud bang from the storage room. I stepped out, flashlight shaking in my hand. The air felt heavy, the kind of cold that breathes down your neck. One of the metal drums had rolled several meters from where it was chained. There was no wind. At 2:13, a black sedan appeared at pump 3. No headlights, no driver. The pump began ticking, fuel flowing into an invisible tank. When I blinked, the car vanished. Later, I caught sight of a figure crouched by the shed pail, motionless. The lights flickered, and she was gone. From that night on, shadows crossed the cameras. whispers echoed through the radio, and that same car appeared again and again. When I told Don Ernesto, the maintenance chief, his face went white. "Years ago," he said, "a woman vanished here. Her car broke down. She begged for help. No one came. If you see her, don't open the door. Now, every night, she returns. Sometimes I see her reflection in the window. Sometimes I hear her voice through the static. Philippe, please, help me. I never open the door anymore. I'm Daniel, a nurse at San Miguel Hospital, an ancient building that never sleeps. Its corridors hum with flickering lights and old secrets. One night, while checking the pediatric wing, a locked door swung open on its own. Curiosity, 1. I stepped inside. The corridor beyond wasn't on any floor plan, narrow, dim, and ice cold. At the end was a door marked with strange, circular symbols. Inside sat a rusted wheelchair and a faint whisper breathing my name. Then a voice behind me said, "You're going to be one of them." I woke up on the floor of a regular hallway. The door was gone. My supervisor claimed the wing had been sealed since the 80s after a fire that killed several patients. Weeks later, while doing rounds, I saw the same door again. Against all reason, I went in. The walls dripped condensation. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air. A shadow stood at the far end. "We've been waiting for you," it whispered. Lights flickered. Dozens of faces appeared behind it, faces of the dead, eyes hollow. "You're not the first," it said, "and you won't be the last." I ran, but I still hear that wheelchair rolling behind me when the hospital is silent. Some nights, the old door appears again in the corner of my vision, waiting for me to open it one last time. I'm Luis Ramirez, taxi driver in Guadalajara. Nights stretch endlessly when you drive alone. You see things others don't. Faces in windows, shadows in rearview mirrors. One night, a man in a dark coat hailed me near the cemetery. He gave no address, just said, "Drive." We rode in silence. Every glance in the mirror showed him farther away, fading. When I turned around, he was gone. Then, when I looked back at the road, he was standing on the same corner where I picked him up. A week later, I saw him again. "You know what happened last time, don't you?" he rasped. He told me to drive to the outskirts. The fog grew dense, headlights dying in the gray. His reflection smiled, though his face did not. "You've arrived," he said. "This is where it begins." The world twisted. The asphalt melted into black water. Beneath it, pale faces reached upward, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Then dashed darkness. When I woke, I was parked on the same street. The clock read 3:33 a.m. Every ride afterward felt wrong. Passengers vanished mid-drive, leaving behind fog and cold. Last week, dispatch sent a call from my own house. I drove there. The taxi was already occupied by them. The woman in white, the man in the coat, the little girl from the park. They spoke together. "It's time to join us." Now I drive through endless streets that circle back on themselves. No dawn, no anxious whispers through the radio, and faces in the mirror. If you ever see a yellow taxi idling beneath a flickering streetlight, don't approach it, because once you get in, you never get out.